Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Please sit down. My dad used to have an expression, quit while you're ahead. I tell you what, I can't tell you how pleased I am to have you all here, and I mean it. Some of you, this is not your first visit. I know the new mayor's obviously it is. But you know, Mayor Sheevey, thanks for the introduction and your leadership of this conference. Special thanks to CEO Conference of Mayors, Tom Cochran. Tommy, how are you doing, pal? Who began his distinguished tenure in 1969. God bless you, pal. It's hell turning 50, isn't it? All right. But neither one of us have his money. Well, thank you all and welcome to the White House. I mean, today we get some good news. We just signed a bill to keep the government open. I thought about it when I signed it, but you know, some days that counts as progress. As many of you know, I started my career as a local official back in Delaware, and I only ran for the Senate because serving locally was too hard. They know where you live, and they think you can solve problems that are beyond your authority. And believe me, all kidding aside, you have enormous respect I have enormous respect for the jobs you do. I really mean it. You can't go anywhere without people knowing what you're doing. They know where you live, and they think you can solve every problem. And no, I'm serious. The fact is you're answering key questions people ask every day. Is my neighborhood safe? Is it going to be okay? Will this bus get me to work on time? You know, my kids, they're going to have a good future in this town? Am I able to stay in my hometown? It matters. It matters what you do. Mayors get the job done. And I'm not just being solicitous. Those of you who know me for a long time know it's been my view from the time I got here as a United States Senator. That's why I've filled my administration with so many former mayors, including Keisha Lance Bottom, Steve Benjamin, Steve, we're good to see you, Mitch Landrieu, Marty Walsh, Secretary Buttigieg, Pete turned 30 today. We got my wife is going to ship. She has a tradition in her family: 5 girls and 5 sisters, and everybody's birthday you got to sing happy birthday. So stand up and let's sing happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Pete. Happy birthday to you. And those of you who know my wife know I'm not kidding. By the way, I tell every young man who's telling me I'm thinking of getting married or somebody, I said, look, you have any advice? They said, yeah, pick a family with 5 sisters or more. And they look at me, what the hell is that all about? I said, it's really simple. That way one of them always loves you, not the same one. You always have somebody on your side. And I want to thank Tom Perez for being the point person for so long. Where are you, Tom? There you are. Stand up, Tom. And I know he spent several days this week meeting with many of you, and I hope he's able to answer all your questions because he always answers mine. Folks, I made a commitment to be president for all Americans, whether you live whether you voted for me or not, and I mean it sincerely. I made a commitment to rebuild middle out and bottom up, not top down, give everybody a little bit of breathing room. And you know, it's kind of interesting that a lot of folks who voted against everything I've done, they're announcing all these great projects. I tell them, and by the way, as many in blue states as red states, you know, red states is blue, for real, because they're all Americans. And here's the deal. I know. Tell the former president I'm busy right now. Look, but I always say some of the most ardent critics of me are announcing these great programs. And I say I have one comment: see you at the groundbreaking. Look, I've kept those commitments, and so have you. And I look at what we've been able to accomplish together. That's what I'd like to talk a little bit about today, and I could take a lot of your time, but the things that are on top of mind for you. Look, when I came to office, the pandemic was raging. The economy was reeling. Cities nationwide faced devastating budget cuts, and together we turned things around. You turned them around. You turned them around. And started with the American Rescue Plan. $350 billion for state and local governments. Money to put cops back on the beat, teachers in the classroom, keep families in their homes. And train your workforces and get small businesses on their feet. Money directed to every single city in the country, so you could decide how best to spend your money and meet your residents' needs without having to go through a state house or a governor. A lot of great governors, a lot of state houses, but you all know what you need better than anybody. I like it going directly to you. When I was a local official, I liked that a lot better. I liked the Delaware State Legislature when I was there, but guess what? Everybody had to get a piece of it. And my county wouldn't get what it needed. Anyway, I followed that with the most significant investment in our nation's infrastructure in generations. Roads, bridges, railroads, ports, airports, public transit, clean water, high-speed internet, and so much more. How can we have the best economy in the world if we don't have the best infrastructure in the world? Not a joke. We used to be number one in the world. You know what we rank now nationally? Our infrastructure is rated worldwide. We're number 13. The United States of America is 13 from being number one. You can't lead the world unless you have the best infrastructure in the world. Well, you're helping us change that. Now we're going on our way to leading the world again. Over 40,000 new infrastructure projects announced to date, and a hell of a lot more to come, with jobs now and jobs for the next decade. I remember going through, remember we had Infrastructure Week? And then we had Infrastructure Week. Then we had Infrastructure Week. Then we had it never happened. Well, you got an infrastructure decade. Because of you. Just yesterday, I was in Raleigh, North Carolina. Yes, sir. You got it, man. Great city, by the way. And we're investing $3 billion in the entire state for high-speed internet by the end of the decade. And we're doing that in all 50 states. You know, Franklin Roosevelt brought electricity to rural America. That's what he did because it wasn't there. And he realized that it was necessary to equalize the country and to grow the whole country. Well, we're bringing high-speed internet to everyone in America. Rural, it's the same thing, the same necessities, critical to our economy. How do you get by in a city, a state, a town, your home, without access to the internet, affordable access? We're not leaving anybody behind. Yesterday in North Carolina, I also highlighted $1 billion we're investing in a new rail line from Raleigh to Richmond. And that's $1 billion. It's going to create good-paying jobs, make travel faster, and it's going to improve the environment considerably by getting tens of thousands of cars off the road, because every study shows if you get a chance to go by electric rail and or your car, you go by rail if it's the same time. They've cut the point going from point A to point B. Look, right now it takes about 3 hours to get in that route. It could be down to 2 hours. It changes everything. And each of you who give examples of infrastructure projects is the one happening now in your states. Look, with your help, we're also making the biggest investment in fighting climate change ever, anywhere in the world. We got more to do. Across your cities, working together to help small businesses install rooftop solar panels, electric buses, city fleets of all electric buses. I just met with a lovely woman who knows a little about the environment. Going to plant thousands of trees in her city. 1 million total. It's going to change, protect against extreme heat and so much more. My administration continues to work closely with you and your governors and respond quickly to the wake of devastating floods, tornadoes, wildfires, and hurricanes. By the way, when I started the job, I kept talking about the need for deal with the environment. So we don't have a problem. Anybody think climate's not a problem? Raise your hand. Come on, man. I've been around the world and on the ground with you, making sure to help strengthen the resilience and withstand the extreme weather and build back a stronger economy and bring back a stronger community. We're revitalizing fence-line communities smothered with the legacy of pollution. I grew up in one of those communities. And Delaware used to have one of the highest cancer rates in the nation. When we moved from Scranton, when jobs were eliminated in Scranton, we moved back to Delaware. My dad had been raised. The Claymont, Delaware, right on the border of Pennsylvania, that arc that goes up in, more oil refineries than any place in the nation, including Houston at the time. Well, guess what? Almost all my friends, including me, we had asthma. We'd go to, my mom would drive us to the local school. Wasn't very far, a little Catholic school called Holy Rosary up the Philadelphia Pike. And if it was the first frost, you'd turn on the windshield wipers. This is God's truth. And there'd be an oil slick in the window. An oil slick. Well, you all come from places that have those alleys, and we're promoting clean energy and industries of the future. Our work has already drawn $640 billion in private investment at home and from home and around the world. $640 billion. We're building factories. We're creating jobs here in America. Let me give you one example. America invented the microchip, about as big as the tip of your little finger, okay? We invented and went to the moon. We modernized it. We made it, it's necessary for everything from smartphones to dishwashers to automobiles. And over time, we went from producing 40% of the world's chips to producing less than 10%. And that's when I signed the Chips and Science Act. I got in a plane, and maybe I was a little nuts, and flew to South Korea. And I said, why don't you come invest and build those computer chips in America so we didn't have a supply chain problem? And went around the world. Guess what they did? I asked Samsung, why are you investing so much money in America? I said, because you have the best workers in the world, and it's the safest investment I can make is in America. Now semiconductors are investing literally hundreds of billions of dollars producing chips back home, here in America, your cities, your towns, so folks never have to leave home to get a good job. And by the way, even those historic investments that we've made over the last 3 years, we still reduce the deficit during this whole period. All those investments, we still reduce the deficit by $1 trillion. And look, a lot of you come from places like I grew up in, where there used to be that factory that employed 3,000, 2,000, 1,500 people. All of a sudden it closed down. It was there for generations. People lost heart. People lost literally a sense of loss. And it's particularly those of you from the near Midwest and the Midwest. Look at all the factories that picked up and moved. All our economic agenda has ignited a manufacturing boom now. Semiconductor boom, a battery boom, an electric vehicle boom. We're making things in America, in every part of America, creating millions of good-paying jobs. By the way, 800,000 new manufacturing jobs. And if you work well, by the way, these new factories, they call them when they're to build these chips manufacturing facilities, they have what they call fabs, the factories. They look like, and I've seen them, they look like great big football fields, rectangular deals. And guess what? You don't need a college degree. You know what the average salary is? $110,000 working there. And what happens? First one's being built outside of Columbus, Ohio. And what I call a field of dreams, 1,000 acres there. What's happening there? Not only you build a factory, but you're going to end up having to build more filling stations, more beauty shops, more drugstores, everything moves when that's happening. When people have money to spend. And it's clean, I might add. It's clean. And when folks see shovels in the ground and people going to work in these projects, they can feel a sense of pride again. Think what we did. I come from the corporate capital of the world. Not a joke, Delaware. More corporations incorporated in Delaware than every other state in the Union combined. And guess what? A lot of those corporations, they're not bad people. They decided, let's go with the cheapest labor in the world. So they sent the jobs overseas, shut down the factories at home, sent the jobs overseas, and then imported the product. Not anymore. We're sending product overseas and we're importing the jobs. Pride in hometown. I really mean it. Think about it. Think about it. What happens if you build up your pride in America? Pride in home. People have pride when things start coming back. Pride knowing you can get big things done when you work together. Look, folks, we know pride also means feeling safe in your neighborhoods. The fact that we've made enormous progress preventing and reducing crime through the American Rescue Plan. We've made one of the biggest investments in local public safety ever, over $15 billion, and much of it's gone directly to you to hire for your departments. You've done a tremendous job. You really have. You've done a tremendous job putting these resources to work. You know how to do it. And I'm not being solicitous. Mayors are the people who get things done. Hiring more officers for accountable community policing, investing in violence intervention programs, proven to reduce crime. With your support, I also signed the first gun safety law in 30 years. And we're working with you to implement it, to coordinate these efforts and create the first ever White House. What we did, my staff came along and said, you know, we need a White House office dedicated to getting guns off the street and threatening and treating the trauma from gun violence, because there's a lot of trauma as a consequence. So we're deploying teams to meet with communities that have been victimized to make sure they get the help they need. It's working because of you, the mayors. We've got to do a lot more. You know, some of you may remember a woman named Dianne Feinstein and Joe Biden passed the first assault weapons ban back when I was a senator. And mass shootings actually went down. So I'm still committed to banning assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. We've done it before and we can do it again. We have to pass universal background checks. It doesn't violate the Second Amendment, for God's sake. I used to teach the Constitution at the University of Pennsylvania. Look, folks, the situation is simple. You know, when we passed the Second Amendment, guess what? You weren't allowed to have a cannon. No, I'm serious, not a joke. You weren't allowed to have there were certain limitations of what you could have. And I love my friends, and the southern part of my state is very conservative, the Delmarva Peninsula. We talk at you like y'all talk sometimes, you know what I mean? But all kidding aside, it's just kind of amazing. They think that you could have anything. That never was the case. There have always been limitations on what you could purchase. So anyway, look, and I love people that say, the blood of liberty, or the tree of liberty is watered with the blood of patriots. Well, guess what, man? I didn't see a whole lot of patriots that are out there walking around making sure that we have these weapons. Well, and if you really want to worry about the government, you need an F-16. You don't need an AR-15. No, I'm not. No, I'm serious when you think about it. I'm not joking, because that's one of the arguments made by the right, that we need to be able to protect ourselves against the government. Well, look. If Jill were here, she'd say, Joe, hush up, boy. Across the country, violent crime rates are falling. In some cities, it's going up, but overall, but not everywhere. Overall, they're falling, these rates. Down nearly in every major category. Record declines in homicide. It matters. And at some time, we've invested, in the last little bit, billions in improving mental health services to extend care, boost coverage, and address the causes of addiction and mental health issues. We're expanding mobile crisis services and community clinics. We're helping schools hire 1,400 new counselors. Mental health care is health care. It's health care. Yeah. It's no different if you broke your arm, if you need help. We have a moral obligation to have our folks back. And I want to thank you all. I mean it sincerely. I want to thank you all for what you're doing to support mental health all across the country. And the same is true for the fight to end homelessness and move people into supportive and permanent housing. We're your partner in this work. We got a lot more to do, I know. Across the country, a record 1 million new housing units are under construction today. We expanded rental assistance to over 100,000 additional families, the biggest increase in 20 years. And we've been working to cut red tape to make it easier for people to access federal housing benefits. You know, I've sent Congress an ambitious plan to do more, lowering housing costs, helping you build affordable housing and provide assistance for renters and first-time home buyers. By the way, most of you come from families like mine. We weren't poor, but, you know, we lived in a 3-bedroom split-level home when we moved to Delaware with 4 kids and a grandpa. We lived in a decent neighborhood. It was safe, but it wasn't what you call luxurious, and there wasn't much left over. My dad used to say, Joey, you know, a job's about a lot more than a paycheck. It's about decency. It's about respect. It's about being able to look your kid in the eye and say, honey, everything's going to be okay, and mean it. Well, guess what? What we're doing is saving the government money, providing assistance for renters, first-time home buyers. That's how people build equity. You build equity in your home, that's how you build wealth. So let's keep pushing. Pass the plan and the law. And I want to talk about another top issue, the border. Now, I love how I turn on and Biden's for a free and open border. Just tear down everything. Let everybody come. No restrictions. Well, I used to be a bipartisan issue in this country, and it should be one again. I've been clear from the very beginning, the system is broken. My first day in office, I sent Congress a comprehensive plan on immigration reform. My friends on the other side have done nothing with that. Over and over, I've asked for resources to step up action at the border. In October, I asked Congress to fund for funding that would add another 22,000 additional border agents and officers, hundreds of new immigration judges to make the judgments on the spot, a new detection equipment to stop fentanyl from coming into the country. And by the way, I've worked with China and Mexico to slow the flow of fentanyl in the United States. As I speak, it's way down. So let me be clear. My team has been at the table for weeks now with a bipartisan group of senators to negotiate a deal, including border, because I believe we need significant policy changes at the border, including changes in our asylum system to ensure that we have the authorities we need to control the border. And I'm ready to act. I think, God willing, and the creek not rising, as my grandpa would say, you know, I think next week we ought to be able to work out something, at least in the Senate. And I'm hopeful it's going to be the bipartisan package the Senate is going to pass, God willing. Now, the question is for the Speaker and the House Republicans. Are they ready to act as well? They have to choose whether they want to solve a problem or keep weaponizing the issue to score political points against the president. I'm ready to solve the problem. I really am. Massive changes, and I mean it sincerely. Today, folks in America, with incredible help of your mayors, we've created 14 million new jobs. 14 million new jobs. Americans have filled 16 million new business applications since I became president. That's a record. And every single one of them, think about it, is an act of hope. Someone says they want to risk everything and open a new business. It's an act of hope. Wages are rising. So is household wealth. We have the lowest inflation rate and the fastest recovery of any major economy in the world. That's a fact. In fact, today, costs are down on everything from a gallon of gas to a carton of milk. You know, I mean, look, I was down in Raleigh, as I said the other day. I didn't pass by a gas station that wasn't under $3. $2.99, $2.87. I mean, come on. And folks are starting to see it. Today I learned the consumer sentiment, and you guys saw it, surged by 29% in the last 2 months, the biggest 2-month jump in 30 years. We got more to do. And that's not all, though. We're lowering the cost for working class families across the board. By the way, it used to drive my dad crazy. My dad was a hard-working guy, an honest man who didn't get a chance to go to college because of the war, but he was a well-read guy. And the thing that bothered my dad more than anything else was what I call junk fees. The add-on fee by a corporation or business just because they could do it. For example, we're going after junk fees like banning banks and credit unions from charging fees for basic service like checking your account balance. check your account balance, you get a bill for $30. Come on. Or retrieving your bank records, $50. Some banks charge as much as I said, $30 to $50 for these services, but not anymore. For families like mine, that extra $30 mattered when I was growing up. And speaking of not being not fair, without the help of a single person on the other side, we finally were able to reduce the exorbitant cost of prescription drugs. Any prescription any one of you are taking for any purpose in your town, you give me that prescription, and if I had the ability, I would take it to Ontario or Paris or Belgium and get it for anywhere from 60 to 30% less. Same company, same pharmacy, same pharmaceutical company, but that much less. Look, folks, we finally allowed Medicare to negotiate drug prices. I've been fighting that as a senator for my whole 2,000-year career. Just like VA's been able to do for decades. Insulin now, your diabetes, insulin is now capped at $35 for seniors on Medicare, after being an average of $400. You're saving hundreds of dollars a month. And by the way, starting next year, out-of-pocket drug costs for seniors on Medicare is going to be capped at total, no matter what the cost you're paying. Everything you don't have to pay more than $2,000 a year for every, and even the expensive cancer drugs, which cost $14,000, $16,000 a year. Folks, I'm going to keep fighting to lower costs for families across the board. And by the way, guess what? I love it. They say, you're spending all that money. Guess what? That's money saved. Billions of dollars the federal government does not have to pay. Billions and billions of dollars. That's a fact. By the way, and how much it cost to make that insulin? The guy who invented it didn't want to patent it because he wanted it available for everybody. And how much it cost to make it? $10. T-E-N. Package it in every way, add all the costs you could possibly think, another $2, maybe $3. And they're charging $400 for it? Come on, man. No, I'm serious. I'm not joking. But it saves the government money. It's not the government spending money. It saves the federal government billions of dollars a year. Billions. And it's going to save more. We have more work to do, but we're going to keep moving forward together, and God willing, as partners. Take student debt relief for public servants. You know I wanted to forgive all student debt, and the Supreme Court said, no, I didn't have the authority to do that. Okay. But then I realized there's a public service requirement out there. If you engage in public service for a serious amount of time, and by the way, the reason why, I'm sure not, anybody, I'm not going to ask you if you had it, anybody had to pay for student debt for yourself and or a kid or anyone, raise your hand. Guess what? The interest you're paying is more than, in fact, what the original bill was. Already, I've been able to forgive the debt for 3.7 million people who've gotten debt relief. And by the way, when I originally got this passed, it was for everybody. You didn't have to be a senior, for everybody. But my team was unable to get passed. I didn't have a bunch of mayors. I had a bunch of senators and congressmen. But all kidding aside, you know, I met yesterday in Raleigh with a dad who was an impressive guy. And he was a principal of the year, picked as a principal of the year in the state. He had 2 young boys. He lived in a lovely small home. And he had a debt that was $124,000 student debt, much of it interest. And he never stopped paying but he always kept his payments going. It kept going up. Well, guess what? That debt's now forgiven. And by the way, he's a former high school principal and now an executive coach for the school district teaching principals. He said this debt relief was a game changer. He and his family, his 2 boys I met. I sat with them in their kitchen in their dining room for the better part of 2 hours. Now he can stay in the town that he loves. take care of his children in a way that they're able to meet the basic needs he has. It's not only fair, but it grows the economy. It grows the economy. So many who are being able to pay off their student debt are now able to go out and go buy a home, invest in a business, invest in other things in their families to grow their families. And quite frankly, you, the mayors, are the key to all of this. I'm not blaming you if you don't want to get credit for it, but the point is, look, the fact is you're the ones responsible. You're the ones people listen to. You talk to people. You speak plain English or Spanish or whatever language they're speaking. You're able to speak to them directly. And you explain in simple language what you're doing. Because otherwise, people get really, really, really confused. We talk about, for example, in this speech they put together for me, they talk about the supplemental. Bless me, Father, for I've you all know what I mean, the supplemental request I'm making to spend money. But no one knows people are busting their neck, no matter if they have a college degree or not. You talk about a supplemental. What are you talking about? We got to speak plain language to people. And that's what you do. Look, let me close with this. Last week, I visited a small business community owners near Allentown, Pennsylvania. Almost heaven, almost Scranton. Almost. Close. Almost Scranton. And if you notice, those of us, everybody's from Scranton these days. But, my mother, who was married my dad when she was 24 years old, and I guess lived in Scranton for those 20-some years and maybe another 10. My mother was in Delaware 35 years, and then she'd be somewhere, and I'd say, "Where are you from, ma'am?" She said, "I'm from Scranton." But look, they remind me how much our work matters. They said back in 2020, when we were down, that they lost businesses and they lost faces. This is in Allentown, all these folks I met, business leaders, a bike owner, a whole shop owner, etc. But then the laws we passed, they said, the work that they've all done together, helped them get back on their feet. They're able to support more cops, more firefighters in the community, more savings for health insurance because of the work we've done, more opportunities in manufacturing infrastructure, new jobs, new businesses, and a new cycle of hope. I know it sounds corny, but you're probably the only group that fully understand it. What do you want to give people who are hurting the most? Genuine hope. Hope they can get something done, that there's a way out. Places like Allentown, once left behind, are now coming back. I mean, for real. The folks I met in your cities and towns. Folks I met in your cities and towns are a big reason why I've never been more optimistic about our nation's future. Like I said, I know I only look like I'm 40, but a little more than that. All kidding aside, been around a long time. And I've never been more optimistic in my whole life about the prospects for America, relative to every nation in the world. You know all the talk, I'm supposedly an expert on foreign policy because I've been doing it so much. Well, let me tell you, remember I said China's going to eat us alive. Give me a break. China's got more problems than, as my dad used to say, Carter has little liver pills. I don't want them to do badly, but I don't want them to play fairly. We're more, look where Russia is. Russia's lost 300,000 forces. I mean, we are now, if we don't lose our footing, in the most powerful position we've been since the end of World War II. We had that post-war period where we knew exactly what we were talking about. But now, think about it. If we're able to maintain support for Ukraine so they don't fall, as Henry Kissinger called me, asked me to call him about 3 weeks before he died. And I was a young senator when he was the Secretary of State, so we had our run-ins and our agreements and disagreements. And he said, one part of the conversation was when I called, he said, you know, not since Napoleon in France, has Europe looked at Russia without fear until now. If we walk away, and Russia is able to sustain their onslaught and bring down Ukraine, what do you think is going to happen in the Balkan countries? What do you think is going to happen from Poland to Hungary and Urban? I mean, seriously, think about it. It changes the dynamic. Magnificent. I won't get. I'm not supposed to be talking about this, but same thing with regard to Israel. Israel has to taper this off. There's ways to put this together. We're in a position where we're unable to. I think one of the reasons the Houthi, I can't prove this, one of the reasons the Hamas did what they did was I was about to work out a deal with Saudi Arabia, wanting to normalize relations. I mean, fully normalize relations with Israel and bring along 6 other Arab nations to change the dynamic in the region. Some of you attended the G20, the 20 largest, the 20 heads of state from the major countries of the world. I got a resolution passed. Everybody thought it was nuts. Said they were going to build a railroad from Riyadh all the way to England, going underwater, not with the railroad, but pipeline through. It's going to go from Riyadh to Saudi Arabia to Jordan to Israel to so on and so forth. Why? Because everybody understands their interest is better met when they have this interconnection economically. Well, guess what? We have to remember. I'm going on too long, I apologize, but we have to remember, I mean this from the bottom of my heart, we've got to remember who the hell we are. We are the United States of America. There's nothing beyond our capacity. Nothing when we've been done together. Nothing. We're the only nation in the world, think about this. It's come out of every crisis stronger than we went in. No other nation in the world has done it because we've worked together. And the thing I love about you guys is you work together. We're going to get this done, folks. I want to now turn it over. My grandfather, God bless you all. Now I'm going to turn it over to Tom. I'm going to take a few questions.
Thank you, Mr. President. Can we give it up for Mr. President? The questions are over, Mr. President. We're going to first turn to Mayor Holt of the great city of Oklahoma City.
Thank you, Tom.
I want the record to show he didn't have to say 4 more years. He's a Republican.
Mr. President, I know I speak for this bipartisan room of mayors when I thank you for having us here today. Thank you for the very deep participation that your administration has had in our meeting these last 3 days. And most importantly, thank you for your obvious commitment to our urban priorities these last 3 years. We're so very grateful. I want to ask a quick question. You alluded to this a little bit. I think I can give you an opportunity to expand on it. Obviously, as mayors, we face countless challenges and opportunities, but it seems that at the end of the day, the most important one is always public safety. Obviously, public safety and law enforcement is often thought to fall under the jurisdiction of local government, but we have long had a partnership with the federal government in that. And I think we'd all just love to hear, obviously we're gratified, as you alluded to, that crime rates have fallen across the country this past year, but I think we'd all love to hear, what are your thoughts and plans moving forward for how the federal government can partner with cities to continue that momentum and to help us keep our communities safe?
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I spent a significant portion of my career as chairman of the Judiciary Committee, which did almost all the crime legislation that exists. And in the last administration, in 2020, for example, we had the largest increase in murders we ever had in all America. Not blaming on that president particularly, but think about what was happening. We had a lot of crises going on. We had the beginning of the pandemic, which wasn't being acted on. We had a lot of people just very, very upset, worrying about where they were. Mental health was deteriorating. And so when I got elected, I acted to turn it around. And so have you. In 2023, violent crime came down significantly. It's one of the largest yearly declines of homicide ever. And the American Rescue Plan, which was a very, very big facility for you to draw on, was one of the largest investments in public safety ever. More police officers are put in the beat, invested in violent prevention, and it's because you did it, and you had the money, and you made the investment. And we signed the first meaningful bipartisan gun safety legislation. It still helped a lot. These phony gun, anyway, I won't go into it, but you did a whole lot. But mainly, we're able to bring more police officers on and raise the standard expected of them. Anyway, but you know, it took executive action to keep illegal guns out of our cities, and that's what we're doing, and you're doing it as well. And look, more's needed. 100,000 more community police officers on the beat, I think, is what's needed nationwide, another 100,000. And we have to fund mental health counselors. You know, what we found is that if, in fact, you know where most law enforcement officers get killed? Responding to domestic violence. You know, we expect our cops to do everything. We expect them to be counselors, we expect them to be psychologists, we expect them to be tough guys and women. But, you know, the one you want to do, you want to have someone trying to stop someone from jumping off the top of the roof. You need somebody who has a background and expertise. So we're hiring into this police departments people with different skills than just being able to tote a gun and physically protect. And so I think that, you know, one of the reasons I appointed Vivek Murthy, Admiral Murthy, to become become the guy in charge of the whole mental health piece of this operation, is because he understands it. And he talks all the time about what we can do to engage in providing for mental health facilities around your cities and communities, so people can have the help they need. And look, you know, I know it's very controversial. I know it's a red hot button issue for a lot of Democrats and Republicans. I come from a state that, back when I was a senator, had I think it was the third highest gun ownership in America, and I don't know what it is now, but because of a lot of duck hunting and the Delmarva Peninsula and a lot of other reasons. And I know how unpopular it was when I started talking about banning assault weapons. Who needs an AR-15 that can hold 100 rounds? Not a joke. I was campaigning when I was running for re-election the last time as a senator, and I was down in the Delmarva Peninsula, just on the Maryland border, and we're in the swampy area, a lot of. And I'm walking through, and that's how, like you guys do, you campaign. You go where the people are. I go through, and so I'm walking through in a pair of high boots, and the guy said, "Biden, you SOB." And I said, "What's this? You want to take my gun away?" And I said, "I don't want to take it." He was fishing. And I said, "I don't want to take your gun away." I said, "You're able to have your gun." He said, "You want to take my AR-15? I said, "You must be one hell of a lousy hunter." and he looked at me and said, "What do you mean?" I said, "You need an AR-15 that's basically a semi-automatic that can, in fact, fire off 20, 30, 50, 60 rounds?" I said, last time I checked, deer weren't wearing Kevlar vests. And we got and then he calmed down, got in a conversation, started talking practically about what in fact happens. What in fact happens. And, you know, the other thing is background checks. There's always been a requirement of background check. And, you know, this 16-year-old kid was able to buy an AR-15. Anyway, so I think we have to support community violence intervention programs as well. Many of you have those programs going in your cities and your communities. And you're seeing they work. You get people engaged and you get them involved. And so there's a lot we can do. I think a lot more we can do. But two of the things are making sure there's background checks for people to purchase weapons, number one. Number two, certain weapons you shouldn't be able to purchase because you're not able to go out and purchase a machine gun. I mean, anyway, there's certain basic principles that just make common sense. And I think, and again, you go back and look, if you want, I'll send you a copy of the study we did after the assault weapons ban lapsed, because it only could last for 10 years. I couldn't get it done again. And it's interesting. the number of mass shootings dropped precipitously when we had that limitation. Doesn't solve every problem. It's one of the things we can do. But at any rate, there's a lot more to say. I'm probably already saying too much.
Our second and last question comes from Mayor Katie Rosenberg from the great city of Wausau, Wisconsin.
Thank you so much. This is an absolute honor. Thank you for hosting us. You have a wonderful staff. Just about a year ago, the Vice President hosted a lead pipe summit here in Washington, and I attended that, and it was like shooting me out of a cannon. I ran home, and we started working on our plan to shore up and pull out all of those lead pipes, and we made our plan a 15-year plan down to a 5-year plan. But I'm curious, what other progress are we seeing about these lead pipes being removed across our nation? It's really important that we get that out of our drinking water. Thank you.
Well, first of all, thank you for what you're doing. I agree. Let me put this in perspective. The research by the docs shows that reducing lead exposure for children, this is a study that was done, had the same effect on test scores, just take test scores in school, on test scores, as reducing class size from 22 to 15 students and less 1/10 of the cost. Let me just give you one example of the impact it has on IQ formation and the ability to think and the like. So it's a significantly smart investment, number one. Number two, we have enough money that we're going to eliminate every lead pipe in America. Every one. It's going to take us about 10 years, but every single one, because you shouldn't think about it. You got 400,000 schools, kids going to the water fountain and drinking, water. You got so much else that's going on, and it makes a lot of sense. And by the way, it creates a hell of a lot of jobs too. But my point is, it just is. Look, exposure to lead impacts on brain development. We know that, particularly as it's developing, hazards to the health of people. It can damage the brain and the kidneys, and interferes with the production of red blood cells that need to carry the hydrogen. And studies show that lead exposure hurts cognitive function in children and can even knock off several points of their IQ. Despite these dangers, the knowledge of how dangerous this is, we're in a fact where the CDC estimates that over half American children could be exposed to lead, with the exposure often coming from their own homes. The lead pipes, and it costs a hell of a lot of money to take that pipe from the water main to the house. It costs a lot of money. A lot of people can't even remotely afford doing it. But everybody's better off. Everybody's better off when we get the lead pipes out of the system. And look, our ambitious goal is to remove all lead pipes in America within 10 years. The bipartisan infrastructure law financed over 1,200 drinking water and wastewater projects, and it's going to replace hundreds of thousands of lead service lines in America beginning right away. Ongoing efforts in cities like Wausau and Philadelphia and Newark, New Jersey, they create good-paying jobs as well. Good-paying jobs. And I visited the Hero Plumbing in Milwaukee, by the way, a black-owned small business that replaced over 600 lead pipes in homes and daycare centers. Well, guess what? 10-year effort to bring these is to bring states, tribes, and labor unions, water utilities, and private companies together to deliver clean drinking water to every community in the world, in America. And so it just seems to me that it's one of those things, who the hell can be against clean water? Except some of the people I know. But all kidding aside, if there's everything you're going to expend money on, you want to increase the prospect of growth in schools. I mean, this was that study, extensive study done. It makes a big difference in terms of the ability to learn, the ability and long-term impacts on cognitive capability. But I'm convinced we can get it done. I'm convinced we can get it done. Thank you all very much. You're very patient. Thank you. you, thank you, thank you. You're all welcome to spend the night. By the way, have you had a chance to see most of the White House yet? Not all of it. Well, you ought to take, I don't know, I might get myself in trouble here. But you know, there's downstairs, there's a lot of interesting rooms you can check out. And up here, the dangerous part of up here is that it's hard to know what room you're in because all of them are identified by color. The red room, the blue room, the green room. It's not, but all kidding aside, welcome to the White House. This is your house. And I was getting in the elevator to come up, and my introducer, where is she? There she is. I said, every time that I hear Hail the Chief, I wonder, where the hell is he?
They're playing your song.
That's right.
That's what my sister said about me being mayor.
Anyway, thank you for everything you do.
Distinguished guests, please remain in your seats while the President departs.
the former president trying to derail negotiations on Ukraine at the border? What do you think?
I'd ask him.
Are you going to President conditions on Israel aid given what Netanyahu said about a one state?
I think we'll be able to work something out.
What does that mean?
There are a number of types of two-state solutions. There's a number of countries that are members of the UN that are still don't have their own military. A number of states that have limitations on them. And so I think there's ways in which this could work.
But Bibi has said he's opposed to
No, he didn't say no, he didn't say that.
So what is he open to?
I'll let you know.
Did you talk about it this morning?
Thank you, folks.
Mr. President,
Can you convince Bibi on a two-state solution?
what do you say